Okay, I believe we should be live on YouTube now. Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Hello, Jane.
Hi, everybody. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's good to see you. All right, so shall I call the meeting to order?
Yep.
All right, I just have to get the cat out of the room, sorry.
Actually,
And Kim, I got an answer on a question about the time frame for the interior renovations. So when we get to the director's report information, I will be able to give an update. But the spoiler for all of you is that the timetable has changed, and I'll explain why. But
Surprise.
unsurprisingly, construction, what we were planning on the dates is different than what is actually going to happen, right? I think we've all seen this as a recurring theme. So, all right, Marguerite, I'll let you
All right,
take it away.
it is 11:04, and I am calling to order the meeting of the Southborough Library Board of Trustees on November 16th. And our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of September 21, October 5, October 19. Do I have any emendations or corrections?
Yes,
Yeah,
I have
I do.
one. I'm trying to put my finger on it here, but on the September 21st and the October 19th, I was
Yeah.
omitted as being in attendance, but I was there both times.
Okay.
That can be easily fixed, David.
Okay.
I apologize.
Not a big deal.
How could
Not a
you
big
be
deal.
missed? I don't understand this. Okay, and so both of those, and Jane, you were gonna say?
On the October 5th one, I had a couple of typos.
Okay,
In the first paragraph, it says there's a requirement for 2 master. It should be master's degrees. I know those are
Okay.
picky.
Nope.
The third paragraph, it says trustees discuss. I think that should be discussed. Approval of. And then in the fourth paragraph, it says,
where there is the trustees discussed, is that the paragraph that starts trustee Regan?
No.
it starts at annual town meeting in spring.
Okay, at annual meeting. Oh, okay, got it.
And then the one where it says trustee Landry, I think it should say moved to request a change.
Okay, which, is that in the section called change of title?
No, it's with the, it starts, yes.
Yes,
Bottom of the page.
trustee moved, yep.
And then there was one more for positive in the staff room. There's just an extra word. The last sentence in tentative schedule for interior renovation, it says environmental testing with rep found tiles in staff room 4 positive 4. So there's just an extra 4 there.
Okay, wait a second, I'm looking. Which sentence is it?
The last one, it says environmental
sentence.
test.
Okay, so the first 4 should go. Okay, well,
Yeah.
you got an eagle eye, Mon. That's
Well,
really
it just bugs me when things look like that.
No, you're completely right. The rest of us are like, okay, whatever, right?
Oh, Marguerite,
there-
I have 2 just small typos as well. It's in
Okay.
the first paragraph after a competitive candidate search.
Okay,
It
and
says-
we are in on the 5th
The
of
5th.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the 5th. It says
Okay.
Director Ivers selected a part-time staff member, Mariana. I would just
Okay.
strike the A there. And then in the following sentence, it says candidate must give notice to existing job, so will start date. So just remove the will.
Okay.
And in the sentence after that, it says Director Donovan would request the town administrator as personnel director. Did that mean to say and personnel director?
Yes.
No, so no, that language is specific because the town because he's the town administrator, but
Okay.
during like personnel issues, it's language that's been adapted from the personnel board. They talk about the town administrator functioning as the personnel director. So I realized it's an awkward phrase,
Okay.
but it was to be consistent with what the personnel board does.
Gotcha. Thanks for clarifying.
Oh, all right, okay.
I'm saying that, and 3 staff members contributed to the meetings, including more heavily me this time, which is probably why you're getting all the typos. So thank you for having all of your editorial eyes. And Marguerite, we're recording this, so I can also go back to the video and make the
All
edits.
right, and I've
But I'll
got
have
it.
you take a look at it before I
All right,
send
okay,
everything
that's
to.
good. But
the
substantively, they're all fine.
I've got 2 edits on the 19th.
Okay,
Okay.
Each one is to add a D on page 2.
on the
next
19th,
last-
wait a minute. I've got, oh yes, here it is. Okay, on page 2.
1019, the next to last paragraph and the last full paragraph on the second page,
Yeah,
the last line says books will be exchanged. You need a D changed maybe once, and that's probably,
wait a second, hold on. Are we under accessibility story walk?
yes, last sentence in that paragraph.
Okay.
Books will be exchanged with a D
Mm-hmm.
maybe once, and it's probably supposed to be per winter.
Per winter, yep, okay, got
And
it.
then same thing on the 3rd page, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line from the top. Longevity amounts in budget will be changed. D.
Yep,
Need a D there. So I don't want to lose my my title as the group pedant to Jane Davis. I want to get my little pedantic things in also.
I have a few more too on the
okay,
19th.
Janet,
Okay.
okay, David, you're done, Janet, you're on, okay.
You done,
Sorry
Dave?
to laugh. I'm sorry
Yes,
to
I
laugh.
am.
It's
Thank you.
just,
Okay, under attendance.
Which
Timothy
month,
Litt-
which meetings are
I'm
we?
still on October 19th.
Okay,
Timothy Litt, I don't think Timothy is spelled correctly.
I
Is
think
it-
that's
is
how he
it-
spells it.
yeah, that's how
Yeah.
it's spelled.
Oh, okay,
Really?
sorry.
We picked it that one before.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. Then under 4 paragraphs down, the one that starts with Director Donovan,
yeah,
you just need a period at the end.
got it, okay, any others?
Yeah, under like 4 lines from the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
there's a period that doesn't belong, I think. It says Trustee Yazdani acknowledge friends attendance low and then there's a period. Is
Okay.
it and Trustee Landry? Is that supposed to be 1 sentence?
See, I think it's acknowledged too, shouldn't it? Have a D, enter acknowledge,
Yeah,
Yep.
and attendance.
And then inquires should be inquired with a D.
What does this mean? Acknowledge friends attendance low. Okay, no period. And
and Trustee
inquired,
Landry inquired.
yeah.
Okay, that's it. This is amazingly good, close reading, people.
I think this was just a trick to get you guys all to read and work on the minutes.
Yeah, I was, but
Right? So I could be ingenious,
Yeah, we didn't
right?
read the substance of it, but we found the
we
grammatical
just found
errors.
out little things, yeah.
Hey,
Are there
Ryan.
any others? Where's Waldo?
No, I have no other edits, but I'm just wondering, would it be possible for us to do this in like a shared Google Doc? And then as we read it, can we just make our edits? Because if it's mostly just like, small typos and detail things, I'd rather get that done ahead of the meeting so that we can just discuss any substantive issues.
Yeah, there
so
are things like Timothy Litt though, because Janet would have sworn up and down, as did I, that was a typo, but that's how
I
he
think
does
I
it.
already pointed that already came up and I was told that's his name, so.
But I mean, we could
Exactly.
suggest edits and then one person can go and accept all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that makes
the
sense.
short answer to that, Kim, I believe is no. We can check with Jim Hegarty, but I think
Yeah.
they need to be reviewed. So normally what the process is we only have one person kind of put the minutes together and review them. But because Val is on a much more limited schedule now, I have had Mariana help put some of the minutes together. And then I actively wrote part of the minutes too to get them to you on time. So I would say the process was pretty fractured this time. What we have a much better process moving forward, which is Mariana's going to have actual time to put them together, and then I'm going to review them. And then typically we just have Marguerite take a quick glance, not for substance, but for those editorial changes. I didn't have time to get them to Marguerite this time because we're already getting notices that they were late because we transitioned to a different staff member. So all that said, this I'm going to try not to make this happen again. And you should never be reviewing 3 sets of minutes at once. At the most, it should be 2. So a lot of this was just me kind of dropping the ball. I should
Don't
have
blame
had a better
yourself, Ryan.
process.
You're doing really well. We should be doing the minutes ourselves, and we're falling down that. Could I make one small suggestion? To use a header or a footer on all of them, and just to put the date of the minutes, like on
Yep.
the pages 2, 3, and 4, if that would be like a hassle just to keep it straight.
Yep. I will talk to Jim about what our Jim Haggerty, the town clerk, though, Kim, on what our options are as far as like, getting them in grammatical shape so that we make this part of the meeting go a little quicker.
So let's try next time and see if we can streamline it, because the timeline is better. And then if it's still a problem, we could revisit that suggestion also after Ryan talks to Jim.
Sounds
How's
good.
that? Because I see what you're saying. We're spending 20 minutes. Well, no, we're spending 10 minutes
Yeah.
looking for missing Ds and so on and so forth. So, all right. So with these emendations and corrections, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of September 21, October 5, and October 19?
as amended.
As
As
amended.
amended.
Thank you.
Well, she says with the following
Okay.
corrections. So.
Janet moves. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
Okay. All right. So we'll put it to a vote then as soon as I get my list. Okay. Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Eckberg.
aye.
Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Maney.
Aye.
Trustee Reagan.
Aye.
Trustee Asdani.
Aye.
All right, so they are approved as amended. Let's move on to the director's report. Ryan, what do we need to know?
So normally it's a bunch of small things, and this was like a few big things, right, that I had to talk a lot about. So do we want to start with the tree hearing, or would you rather start with the interior renovations?
Let's do the interior renovations.
Okay, so the front room had the Judy Williams Reading Room, is its official name, has been completely painted. So one of the things that we didn't talk to you guys about in the last meeting was John had a suggestion that he talked through with me on painting the back of the bookcases brown so that they matched the wood that was there. So if you guys have been in the library and you've been in the front room, it looks
great.
It was really
Oh,
good.
that's great.
And
Looks terrific.
Yeah. So we went through a lot of different paint samples to try to match it. And it's not exactly, if you get really close, you can tell, but from the circulation desk, it looks pretty good. So that part is complete. And that was the part they really needed the scaffolding for, because they painted the ceiling. So the next area that they want to go to is the staff room. So we have had to kind of judge a little things in the front area, which is most of the processing stuff for the books and the receiving are going to kind of be moved to my office. Because if you recall, my office was painted first. So the idea is that we can kind of use my office as kind of a temporary staff site. And to be honest, I've been covering the desk a lot when I'm there. So I haven't been in my office as much as normal, I would say. So I'm going to work more out of the teen room, and then I can still work out of my office. It just means I have staff members coming in more than usual, which
How
is
long
okay.
will that be?
So the time frame is something I talked to John about this morning. I know Kim had asked me if we were still on track for the week after Thanksgiving. We are not now. Part of what we have to do in the staff room is that we've decided to use this as an opportunity with the carpet and the painting, since we're going to be doing so much work anyway, in taking the cabinets that are not ADA compliant in the kitchen and updating them. So John thought this was going to be a pretty simple process, but the supply chain issues that have resulted from the COVID delays have not made it as simple as we thought. So John is still trying to find an affordable option for replacing the cabinets. And that is just, there's a little longer lead time than we thought. So because that, he wants to get that done next, that's basically pushing out the entire project now. We also I met with Kim and Amy Townsley and Mariana about sort of our programming strategy for the next couple weeks, because we have Mariana on board now. We're continuing with some of our Zoom programs, but one of the things that Kim would like to do is she generally does, as you probably remember, a big holiday party during the Santa helicopter day, Santa Day, right? So we're not going to be doing that, but what Kim would like to do is sort of several smaller events during the school vacation week. So that is also factoring into when we want to, because if we have to shut down completely and we kind of plan out all these holiday events, we want to make sure that it's as disrupted as little as possible. So the short answer is I don't actually know when all of this is going to happen, because we need to see when the cabinets are going to be able to be completed. But I can tell you that the sort of our workflow is going to be completing the staff room, getting the cabinets and the painting done, and then we're going to move into the carpeting for the Judy Williams reading room first, and then the circulation area, and then the back stacks are going to be painted and carpeted at the same time, because the bookcases need to be moved. So
What does that say about when the closing week is going to be, Ryan?
it could be as late as January. We're
Okay.
trying to see if we could do mid-December without disrupting what Kim is planning for the holiday week. We also are still looking at off-site locations, but because the time frame is changing, that means that the availability of different sites would also potentially change. So I don't have a good answer for you at this point on when it's going to happen. As the work gets scheduled, I can send you guys updates in the interim before a December meeting, but it's unlikely that before the December meeting, the work is going to commence. So that's a big change from what I told you last month. Sorry.
No, I think it's to be expected with a job this size, and I'm surprised it hasn't. I'm surprised there haven't been more disruptions. Frankly, I think you're handling it really well. And if we can't get the cabinets, we can't get the cabinets until we get them. So there it is.
One of the things that Marguerite, another update I have that's not in the report too, and this is sort of adjacent to the interior renovations, is I'm sure you guys are all interested in an update on the roof leak. So the roof is still leaking. It is not leaking as much as it did initially, but it looks like, what did they say? I got to get the specific term, Janet, that they sent us last night. Give me just a minute, guys. But if it's okay with the board, I'd like to bring Janet with me to a meeting we have with the architects and the OPM and John Parent on reviewing an initial scope of work from Cal Hess. So
this is to put the secondary roof over our roof, right?
yeah, there was an area that they I'm not.
I haven't gotten through all the details of the little diagrams.
Yeah, well, they want us to actively engage with them. That's part of what our meeting is, to talk about what to go back to Cal Hess and Greenwood with, as far as
Is the new
Sorry, I'm trailing
proposed
off.
roof being done by Greenwood?
Yeah, because we were under contract with them.
All right. Does anyone have a problem with Janet being the representative at this meeting, or would anyone else like to attend instead, or as well
I have
as?
no problem with Janet attending.
Okay.
Me too. Thanks, Janet.
So it seems like the only vulnerability and potential source for the leak that is evident is the deteriorated joints in the capping stones. So sorry I wasn't ready with that, but I was ready with David's next question about the warranty. So that is not covered under warranty in reviewing our initial scope of work in the project. And this would be considered some of what SSV it got from Cal Hess would be considered new construction. So if that is the case, this would be considered a proposed change order, which I think in every conversation I've had, I forgot what they were called, but it's a PCO. So a proposed change order will be recommended, and then that will be what Janet and I review. And then we may have to have a meeting in the interim if you guys have to approve it, because I think that there was a certain amount you guys wanted to approve if it was over. I want to say it was $10,000. It might have been, okay, it's definitely going to be over that amount. I can tell you that.
Cool.
Brian?
It's coming out of capital's budget, it's coming out of capital's budget, or it's coming out of the CPC money?
All of the amount from capital was spent, I believe. We would have to check with John on that.
Okay, so
I think the money would come out of the CPC. There was money left over out of that fund. So we'd have to.
Would this still come under the umbrella of a renovation?
Yeah, it's within,
so.
it's a
It's old
proposed
stuff.
change order on the roof work. Yeah.
Brian, can you
Can you
explain?
just,
So you said that there are deteriorated joints in the capping stones. So was that existing deterioration, or did it happen since this started? Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, how did it get to that state while all this work was being done?
I think
It was
Go ahead.
age. So it's just, it was time that did that. Replacing the capping stones was not part of redoing the, I forget what is the roof called, Janet? It's I want to say umbrella roof. That's not what it's called.
That they're proposing?
No, but our roof is basically like, there's like a sheet that goes over the roof that is sealed. And
it's a rubber membrane.
a
And where it
membrane
attaches-
roof. Thank
Roof membrane.
Thank
Where
you.
it attaches to the capping stones, which
Yeah.
are rotting out because they're 100 years old, and they're part of the structure, that part is deteriorated, and it's really very difficult to attach a membrane there so it doesn't leak. And
Yeah, because that
the
is
stones are
it's-
basically rotting, and they're part of the building structure. So our thought was to replace it to leave that there, because it's always going to be springing leaks because the stone is continuing to crumble very microscopically, is to put a roof over that, which is a metal roof, which gets the water into the drains without having it go onto the membrane and pooling at the capstones, as I
So
understand.
when you're talking about capstones, is this talking about the drain?
No, it's
No.
the little
Two
wedgy
separate areas.
things that are if you go up there and look, there are like little corner things that stick out that are made out of stone, and it's very hard to get the membrane to stick to that because it itself is crumbling slowly but surely.
I know what Kim's question was getting to, though, and you can correct me, Kim, if I'm wrong, but it was, why wouldn't fixing the capstones have been part of the original project, right?
Because
I
it's
see you
not
all
like
nodding.
if it's due to age, it's not like all of the aging and deterioration happened over the past 10 months, you know?
No, it's been doing it for a while, I think.
So you also got to think about, remember when we had that discussion, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, about the work that was done on the addition, which was the sort of those puncture marks and how water could penetrate that. So that wasn't in the original scope of work either. So replacing the roof was actually different than sort of doing this capstone work. And to be blunt, really what it came down to was expense. The project came under bid significantly, but when we were going to bid, there were certain things that were considered sort of like additional areas that were not part of like the original scope of work. And even though this is like an age problem that we're experiencing now, that wasn't where we thought we had problems. We thought we had problems in sort of the membrane the heat was getting trapped and it was melting the brick. So this is, I don't want to say this is a new problem because really it's 100-year-old problem. It's because the stone is sort of collapsing, but we didn't know that there was a water issue there until we sealed the roof and stopped water coming in from the other areas. So that is part of where we're at with that right now. Should that have been part of the original work? Sure, the original scope, sure, but we would have had to add the amount of money we're going to have to pay now for that. And the project was already at over $1 million.
Ryan
when
and
we did-
Janet, that is limestone, right? Is that stone limestone?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think
It's
so. I think
above
the
that
only thing
area.
that's limestone is the sign.
So is it, just my experience is stone crumbles. There you go. So
Well,
that's-
limestone is very porous.
Yeah, and is it marble?
No,
No. The other concern that came up was that it could be the drain crumbling. It turns out that big drain there is terracotta. And I asked Mary about, should we just replace that whole thing if it's terracotta is going to degrade over time? She said, oh no, that would be an incredibly substantive change. So
You'd basically be taking structural stuff out of the building and
right.
replacing it with something.
So there's
big.
lots of just different pieces that, I don't know what that's
There's-
made of.
there's also going to be different options. There already are kind of different options that they're reviewing. So one of them is putting like essentially metal flashing over the capstone, which would kind of watertight it. But there's like a way to kind of just redo the capstone. So a lot of it comes down, Kim, to money. It was how much money do we want to make in the investment of this? And then it wasn't, I guess the age and the condition of the capstones, that was something that was identified in the initial assessment report, but it wasn't identified as something that needed to kind of be sealed or replaced because we didn't know that this was a problem until I guess the rest of the roof was done. I will also say, it sounds like we're talking about like a waterfall coming in through the ceiling. We're talking about a very minimal amount of water. And I personally didn't the entire project, but because of this leak issue, I went up with Cal Hess and Mary and John on the roof. And I can tell you that the drains are, even though I knew that they were terracotta drains too, but what our first stop was checking all those drains and making sure that they were functioning correctly, and they are. And John and I even talked about getting up on the roof on a more regular basis because the leaves from the fall, especially in the fall months, there was a lot more stuff on the roof than John and I thought. And part of this is we can't access the roof like whenever we want. We've got to bring a ladder in, and it's kind of a debacle to get up there, right? So the facilities team, I think, is going to check those drains, especially in the fall months on a more regular basis. A lot of this is just, we learned this as we did the project. We didn't know that this capstone, we don't know what we don't know, right? So we didn't know that there was going to be this water issue because of deteriorating capstones until the roof was completed. So.
That makes sense. Thanks for the explanation.
It's sort of,
And all I can
it's
see
an
on
old
any of this
building,
paper,
isn't it?
all I
Well,
can
we
see
will
on any of this
also-
paperwork is that it's coping stone. They don't say what kind of stone it is.
Yeah,
So-
it's
so-
a sort of thing that juts out, and I'm sure if we tried to replace it, the side of the library would probably start sagging. So it's
Oh my God.
When you have a proposed change order in front of you, though, we are going to ask Mary to come out here and to answer any of the questions that you may have about this. So
Good.
like questions about what is the specific stonework, again, she can kind of go back. I just, I don't want to put Mary on the spot. Like we can kind of prepare, I guess, the questions that you guys might have, and you can send those to me in between the meeting. So if there are any questions you have, please email them and we'll put together a list that Mary can address once we have the change order in front of you. But the change order will be explained to you before any approval. So just to let you guys know.
Thank you for being the point person, Janet, and Ryan, I'm sure you know more about 1915 architecture than you ever thought possible. But my main question to Mary would be, what do we need to do to fix this, and let's do it.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just get this over with. We've been dealing with Ruth for how many years? A long time.
The flashing, like metalwork that's going to go over the capstones is the way to like presumably stop this problem, like nip it in the bud
All right.
permanently. because
And the
then
other
that
roof?
would end up getting
The
replaced.
secondary
So that's
roof,
going
I
to be
guess.
the more expensive option,
Yeah.
just to warn you guys.
So it's an either or?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Okay,
But
well,
more expensive short term, but maybe long term less expensive. Am I hearing you right?
the second
Yeah.
roof, you mean?
Well, it would be nice if it didn't like ruin the new carpeting and.
Yes, and the paint would look really good with dribbles down it, I think. So we have to, yeah, whatever. I mean, the word watertight keeps recurring to me. I just think it would be lovely if we could reach that status. And thank you, Janet.
It's a good reminder that this group and I will be dealing with water issues for our entire tenure with the Southborough Library. There's no way
Say
we can keep trying to waterproof, but it seems like it's like Jurassic Park. Water finds a way somehow in our building, whether it's above or below. So it's just we have to be vigilant. I think, like in all honesty, we have to be vigilant. We have to check these things, and then we have to kind of, work with the people who are the fixers here who can help correct these issues when they come up.
Well,
But
thank you for
I wish I had known that the capstones were going to be a problem when we were doing all this work last spring. And this is a problem that has creeped up. We've never had water in the area we're having it come through now that we're aware of. So,
Water is very devious, we know that. So this is a very good segue into the tree hearing. Because one of the issues there is whether paving the area north of the library is going to increase our groundwater flow. And all the trees being down are going to increase our groundwater flow. Ryan, do you want to speak? Would you like to speak to there's something always, isn't there? Would you like to speak to the new and improved area north of the library?
Yeah, so I mentioned in my director's report that on November 1st, myself, and then sort of, we didn't organize this, but Mr. Eckberg, Mrs. Landry, and Mrs. Maney all attended the tree hearing, and we were, I think, 3 of 5 people. I think Selectman Sam Stivers was there, select board member, right? Sam Stivers was there, and Mimi Luttrell from the planning board. So we were able to talk with, I think Chris Roy was there, right? Is Chris Roy from DPW?
Tree guy?
And
The tree
yeah,
guy.
yeah, and Karen
Leroy,
Galligan.
is it Leroy or Roy? I don't know.
Leroy, thank you, Chris Leroy. And they were very responsive. They spoke to us and answered questions we have. Karen said a lot of the road work that they were doing on Route 85 that's adjacent to where so we're talking about this sort of, quote, triangle lot that's just past the library's parking lot. So I guess we should make a couple notes about this. A lot of people have said, hey, what are they doing on the library's property? So to clarify, and we talked to Karen about this in the tree hearing, is that is not the library's property. Is the property line ends several inches off of where the pavement ends for the parking lot, so that you guys are aware. If you would like to see the detailed property lines, you can do that by visiting the town assessor's office, which I have done, and it is informative about where the library's property
is
lines
it? Is it the town's property?
That's a really interesting question, Jane.
It is not. It is actually owned by St. Mark's. And then there was a grant proposal that happened in January and from DPW on something called a shared streets grant. And they were going to build a park. There was also something in there about a history walk, which I think in any permutation of this, it was somehow in the grant, but it was never going to happen. So
The history walk, you mean?
History walk, yeah.
Can I jump in just a little bit here? That, as I understand, if you look at my Southborough, it's sort of exploding with various things about what's going on here. But, there was supposedly, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, a tentative land swap negotiated by some of the Board of Selectmen so that St. Mark's would have more parking. And in exchange, they granted an easement to the town of Southborough, I think that's correct, to put in this park on St. Mark's land. And as I understand it, that this is a this is a use of town land, and I don't think it's gone to a vote at town meeting because the exchange is not finalized. So I just personally, I think there's been a real failure of communication on the part of the various entities involved in this, because a lot of people who live in the town have said, what is happening? And no one really has a direct answer.
Well, my understanding is that it's not a land swap, and then it's not town property.
See, there it is. It's
belongs-
St. Mark's land, but we've been granted an easement to put the
easement to
park
build the
on that.
park.
But the easement is a temporary licensing, not final. And the other part of it that's confusing to me is that the trees were taken down, and apparently there was no hearing for that because they were St. Mark's trees. But on the other hand, it's affecting the library's water table to have all those root systems ripped up, and God knows we have a very precarious balance with our water table. There are enough questions that I can't answer about what's going on, and I went to the hearing. The design of the park is an issue. Part of that was supposed to be native cultivars, which is partly why the grant was given to the town, because there would be native cultivars in that. What I'm looking at from the design that was presented with that spiral looking park, it was basically a lot of pavers and some grass in the middle. I don't think there's been enough input on the design of the garden. I think also I'd heard that one of our parking spaces the library lot were going to become handicap spaces connected by a path to the garden to the other parking. So I really feel like what I would like to do, since I have a lot of questions and I'm sure everybody else does, and I can't answer your questions legitimately, is that the selectmen are meeting tonight to discuss this. I would very much like for us to propose that, since it abuts our property and it will impact us in several ways, parking, water, population moving around, who knows what, visibility, extension of the native plants garden, that I would suggest that the selectmen appoint a committee to discuss what that garden looks like. And I know that there's a drop dead date of December 31st when the work is supposed to be done. I know there was one extension on this. Now, see, I'm probably saying things that a lot of people aren't aware of. I know Janet sort of is aware of it. I don't know. It was like all news to me. There's been one extension granted on that, really. I didn't know anything about that. To request another extension to do the garden, because we don't know what's going in there. And nobody apparently has had input on what this looks like. So I would suggest to the Board of Selectmen that they enable a committee which has somebody from Recreation, somebody from Open Space, somebody from the library, somebody from the Planning Board, somebody from St. Mark's, and we talk about what this garden, which is basically on St. Mark's property, should be looking like. I don't know if St. Mark's was okay with all those trees coming down.
I'll just say, if I could just give one more point, is we haven't had an issue with parking for any of the St. Mark's sporting events, but because this work commenced and because there is not that gravel area there, so this might have been kind of a one-time deal, because I don't know how many more sporting events there are going to be. But on Saturday, because Marguerite and I were looking at sort of the massive dirt piles that are there because of the construction work. But when the athletic event happened at St. Mark's on Saturday, November 13th, so this was this past Saturday, everybody parked at the library. And then I got complaints all afternoon from library users not being able to come to the library because there wasn't parking.
Okay,
so
on Saturday, it wasn't just sporting events. They had an enormous memorial service for a long-term teacher that died, head of the history department, long-term teacher. So we had friends from Maine that came down for it. So there were a ton of former St. Mark's teachers. So,
well, when I can tell you, I don't even know if those people were able to park at the library, Janet. When the sporting event ended at St. Mark's, the parking lot was free, like within a half an hour. So I would say I think most of the people were from St. Mark's, and I would just say this was one of the reasons why I kind of came on the select board meeting last January, is that parking is an issue for us, and it has been an ongoing communication between us and the school. And we need to be able to have ongoing discussions about if there's because really I need people who want to come to the library to be able to utilize parking at the library. It's really not overflow parking for St. Mark's sporting events. And honestly, also, you know, I don't want to be not respectful, but also it's not for memorial services either. We need to be able to have enough parking so that people can come when we're open. And then there are many hours during a week where the library is not open. So sporting events and other things can be coordinated around that, if that's possible. People need to be in communication with me so that we make sure that people can get to the library. So that's the one thing I have to say before Marguerite, you know.
Okay, so how would you fix that, Ryan?
This is
saying
just
it is a
something where
problem. What's the best way to fix it?
I think if there is some sort of working group or committee that's formed, just so that they're aware that that is a concern of mine.
Yes, and I'm sure when the parking is, when the new parking is created, there won't be as much of a problem, but there will still be a problem, right? People will still be.
I still would like to see the final plans for all of this. We're saying it might not be a problem, but do we know?
Yes,
do we
this is a
know
good
what
point.
is and isn't
So
going to be a problem?
Exactly. So this is good. We can't go on assurances because I think it would be a good idea to ask the selectmen, since the garden is up in the air and there's a lot of debate about it, that not only that, but the parking, if there could be a sort of a joint committee with all the stakeholders, which definitely includes St. Mark's, could talk about what we're going to see there. At this point, I saw one design that Karen had provided from her engineer, and it was a kind of a spiral with a lot of walkways. The idea of putting a play yard in there, which was originally part of the grant, was kiboshed because it's too close to the road. And I'd like to know if we're going to have that as an adjunct to our grounds and a continuation of the pollinators garden, and it will impact our parking, what it's going to look like.
Could we further ask not just that we have a working group on the garden, but on the whole movement of the road?
Yep.
They're moving I from going to that tree discussion and hearing Karen, I didn't realize that one of the major impetuses for this thing was to give St. Mark's parking. So they've moved the road over partially to improve the tight angle of it.
Right,
so
they're
that
ripping up
vehicles can
St.
go.
Mark's Street.
Right,
and
they're
moving
ripping
it,
that up
yeah.
and moving it to give parking on that north side of the road, additional parking to St. Mark's.
Which
Which
way
is
are they
South Road
moving it?
Town property.
Where are they moving it? Toward the
towards the
field?
library.
No, toward the library. They're moving it like maybe 10 car lengths toward the library.
I feel like it would be good if we brought up the thing that Karen brought up, which is one of the reasons they're doing this, Janet, is because I guess the turn radius for the fire trucks is not where it should be for that road. And it was never constructed with sort of large fire trucks in mind. So part of the reason that the road was proposed to change is for better fire truck access. So that's what they said. So that's just what I want to
Safety is always what people bring up when they want to get something done. And I think we can have safety and it doesn't have to look horrible.
Well, the problem with where they want to move it to, now maybe that's where they need to for safety. I don't know. But by moving it that far, they have to take down the rock wall that's been there over 100 years. They had to take down additional trees which were in the way of where that road would be. So there's a lot of things that are being determined by where the road is. And I don't know how much study went into, like, just by pushing the road there, it pushes the garden closer to us and library and to the burial grounds and all the issues involved with that.
That's another.
If the road doesn't have
issue.
to be quite so far, then maybe it doesn't have to impact us quite as much.
Well, here's the other part of it. How wide is that road going to be when it hits the when it touches the street? Is it going to be wide enough? Is it going to be a Y? Is it going to be a 90-degree angle? Is a fire truck going to be able to get in a 90-degree angle? I don't think so. So I think there's a lot of questions, and I think we're stakeholders because we're abutters and residents of the town. And I think that it would behoove the Board of Selectmen also the other part of it is there was a land swap, but it wasn't, not exactly a swap, but an easement or a change in use of Southborough land, and yet it didn't go in front of the voters. I was curious about that too. So I just have a lot of questions about this, and I'm really concerned about getting more water into our library because they've paved and removed trees.
I think that's our biggest issue, Marguerite. I agree with you. It sounds frustrating that it doesn't seem like this has been well communicated, but I guess for the purposes of this meeting, if we could focus on just the impact on the library. One thing you had said was that we might lose some of our parking spaces at the far end of our parking lot to handicap spaces. Would that be to accommodate for this new park? Like, that doesn't seem right to me, because we already have extremely limited spaces, and to change the usage of more of those spaces will impact the number of spaces we have. Not to mention, like in all of our former surveys, one of the things we've been wanting to fix for the future is our issues with parking. So this really kind of hampers a lot of that for us.
I don't know where that information came from. Karen told me that it wasn't, other than a proposed sort of trail or pathway that's going on the side of the wall where the graveyard is, that would lead eventually into this park area, is that there shouldn't be any effect on the library's property. Nothing about parking spots was ever discussed. The only thing that Karen asked was to put up sort of beams temporarily at 2 spots at the end because of the gravel lot going away during the construction. She asked if they could make it overflow parking for St. Mark's staff. So I don't know if that is part of where this came from. I don't know if it's like they specifically gave it to handicap people, because there's also spaces next to the historical museum that have been designated for St. Mark's staff too. So that is the only, the parking thing was supposed to be temporary that I heard,
right?
not
We're
permanent.
speculating.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
So
speculating, and we need some specific information.
nobody told us about permanent changes to parking. Nobody talked to me about that, and that wasn't in that selectmen meeting from last January.
Okay, good.
The other part of it that I think is interesting to think about, and I think Kim, you brought this up to me, is that if we want to do a renovation to the library, there's a possibility that our whole entire parking lot could move and turn into building and put the parking lot somewhere else. But this would effectively impact that if we can't do that. And that's, again, that's a big question. If we want to stay where we are and use that historical part of the library, is this going to make that impossible?
I think it would be good if the board's amenable to this, to picking a representative to go to the selectmen meeting tonight, select board. I have to get used to it. The Southborough Select Board meeting tonight, and to be able to ask some of these questions and then report back to the board.
I am happy with doing that, at least for now. And I would also think that we should put any request like this in writing and give it to the board before their meeting.
Before their meeting tonight?
Yep. Email it to them.
I'm going to attend also remotely.
I plan to attend too.
Yes.
But Marguerite, maybe you should, since you've got all these, you've just listed a bunch of questions. Could you do that? Send the email?
I am happy to do that if everybody's okay with it.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yes.
I just think that the communication needs to be clearer, and I think the stakeholders need to be able to discuss with each other their questions, and there it is.
Yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
so- all right. Any other? Also, the other part of it is, if you have ideas, feel free to email me so that I could include them in whatever I send.
Okay.
Tonight, and I will send out a copy to you of what I'm planning to send for your input.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's okay, good. So we're being good stewards of our property.
Okay, so just to
I'm trying.
Yes, and Jane also as our grounds expert here, you also must have thoughts on what you would want to be looking at the back of the library.
Well, I've been confused about what I've seen the plans and then heard other things, so I'd really like to narrow that down to what really is going on. So tonight will be good.
Okay, that sounds good. Any other comments? All right.
I'll finish up the director's report, then, Marguerite, since we're
Okay.
still on that.
I
It's
know.
just, so just to make you guys aware that there are 2 line items, since we're using the new subscription line item. There's something called magazines and other supplies, and then there was something called newspapers and other supplies. So there was a 1-digit difference. I accidentally charged, because we budgeted in magazines, and then several months ago, I apparently charged these to the newspaper line. I confused them. So we fixed that on the accounting side, just to let you know. It was something that Carla brought to my attention, Carla and Heidi Lindsay, and then we were able to correct it. So I just wanted to let you know that that happened. I'm keeping better track of that, but I thought it was the same thing and it was not. So then I worked on the budget. So I think we should go into the FY23 budget discussion.
All right.
If you guys are ready.
Everybody got it?
Yep.
And there was one change already. You said, well, this is such a provisional
Yeah.
budget at this point, but what
So
was the change?
we can start off with any questions you have, and then I'll go into the change when we're ready for that. It'll be in a future iteration of the budget, I guess. I don't want to change it and send you guys a new one already. It's a small change. I'll explain why.
I have one question.
Yep.
So the reduction in the part-time salaries
Yep.
over this year, is that because new people at lower rates?
That is one factor. Also, we have Mariana and Val in particular. We're working a lot of hours. And what we're doing now is spreading out the hours among more part-time staff. Also, Mariana averaged about 18, 19 hours a week. And now that she's transitioned to full-time, we spread that out with some of the newer staff members. But what I should note is that part-time staff members are not working on the same level that they were. And I should say that kind of pre-COVID is that we've ironed out a schedule. And I guess I'm covering the desk a little bit more. That was just a factor of Pat's retirement, right? So some of the shifts that Pat covered, like that she was, we needed her help covering the desk. So Tuesday nights and Wednesday mornings in particular, those are 2 of the times that I kind of help out a little bit more than usual. So also,
That's not
there's
a
kind
good
of a
long-term solution for you to be covering those shifts, right?
I mean, I think a lot of this too, Janet, is based on the availability of our part-time staff, of our existing part-time staff. So the other option would be that we hired people, and I'm really happy with the people we hired, but like Pages, for instance, we hired a group of younger kids this round. And so instead of having them for 3-hour shifts, we have them for 2-hour shifts. And I'll say, I think that's more effective for us from a managerial perspective, but also it's more effective for their schedule. But what that means is we're requesting less dollars. I was also mindful of the fact that our full-time overall percentage went up this time because of the change in having 3 full-time librarians. So I thought that it was a nice balance if we're going to ask for more for full-time, we should look at maybe tightening our belts a little bit on the part-time. To your point, having me cover the desk on a regular basis is probably not a long-term solution. So that might be something we have to look at future cycles. I can tell you in the last couple months, it's worked out okay. So I think it's good for me to interface with the public and to see what our staff are experiencing. And also, I think having FaceTime with the public is something that's important to me. So
Is a lot of that the teen room?
No, I'm more at the main circulation desk, but
Okay.
I cover the teen room too.
All right, good.
Sometimes.
David, sorry.
What amount of what performance increase is worked into this budget? What are they working with at this point?
Oh, a 2.8%. So that will be the reason why I noted in the director's report that the personnel board meets tomorrow is because I believe this change will be, it still isn't voted on. So the budget is conditional. What I'm saying is, I think we should vote. Well, I'm saying I think you as a board should vote a conditional budget at this point because the town administration wanted all the budgets in by last Friday. And we did not submit anything because you guys had not reviewed a budget yet.
But
So
the personnel board hadn't voted on it either.
the
right?
personnel board still hasn't voted on it. They're
Yeah.
supposed to vote on it tomorrow.
So this is
So
where we would vote on it, but not knowing what the personnel board is going to do. That's what we have to do, I guess.
It's what happens every year. And then if the personnel board changes the rate, so if it's not a 2.8% raise, Janet,
Mhm.
then every town department is going to have to change the budget that
Right.
they submitted.
Right.
So what for trustees that are kind of new, I think everybody's been through a budget cycle at least once at this point, is that typically we approve a budget and then the next month we have to approve a revised budget
Right.
because of either the personnel board rate changing, there might be a change in the minimum salaries. We do pay now in all part-time positions, we pay people at the minimum rate. So if that table moves up, like it did last year. If you recall, this happened in December. The pages who are Schedule C, Grade 1, were paid, I forget what it was. It was like $11.74 or something, and they had to go up to like a couple cents per hour, and that was about a $500 difference in our budget. It will also affect our new library associate and our new technician. So I can, if there's a salary change that personnel board votes, I have to come to you guys and have you approve a new budget. So that'll be the process.
So we will vote to approve what we've got here pending finalization of the salaries from the personnel board.
Yes. What I did do for this budget too was you'll see that there is a breakout of not just the subscription costs, which I think I've done in the previous year. There's also a breakout of the dues costs. Since those are both over 20,000, I thought it was important to know what we're paying for in each of those areas. So the other thing is, if we cut a database, for instance, which I don't think this year I recommend, I think we should continue with the electronic resources because I've been pretty happy with their usage, right? So I would say I think we should continue everything for next year, but those would be like, if we're looking to cut a service or a database, you can kind of go to those respective line items. There's things we have to pay for, like the website. I would say, like, I don't want to cut the website out because that's how everybody finds information out about the library. The newsletter is something we want to keep, right? That's been very successful in our marketing strategy in the past couple months.
Yeah. Okay, so questions from anyone else, or shall we vote to approve this tentative budget?
The one change I'll say is that in the dues line, sort of that breakout, there is the CW Mars cost went up because I went to users council this morning, which I said last meeting, it was the same morning as our meeting, and I'll find out the rate. So that is actually at 20,591. That is our FY23 assessment. It's the max payment with cap. So remember, they would only increase it, I think, by it's 2% or 4%. So that is the highest it would be for next year. So that's the amount we have to budget for. So it's a difference of a couple $100, I think.
Okay, so what would the final number be on that one?
Well, what I did in a revised budget, because I thought yesterday about sending you a revised budget, and I just didn't want to do that to you guys. I don't want there to be 50 versions of the budget, is I can take some of the money from the educational supplies from the book budget and just offset that amount, the amount we need to budget for the assessment.
Okay. So do we have
Or I
other-
could just ask, we could just ask the town for more money. That would be the other thing. But what I was trying to do with this budget is keep it at a 2.5% increase
Mhm.
overall. So that was kind of the percentage I put together for you guys, if that makes sense. We should also note before you vote, some of the changes. So technology is taken out completely because that was a recommendation from the, I guess, the select board that they had asked that because it's going to go under IT now. So normally our percentage increase, I think, is closer to 3%. Part of the reason why we're lower than that this year is because one of the things we're taking out is technology. So I haven't really seen a proposal or a plan. And I know Jason's very busy, and I know he's looking at it. So Jason Montijo, the town's IT director, I know he's looking at hiring an additional person because he got that approval at the special town meeting. But I don't know how computer equipment at the library is going to be replaced. So they wanted us to take it out of the budget, but I haven't really seen the plan or the amount of money that's going to go into the library for next year, or how that's going to be assessed. So I
Okay,
want to
so
make
this-
you aware of that.
This is another uncertain area. So the IT situation is not certain. The salary situation is not certain. Print and electronic subscriptions now, dues and memberships now is, as of this morning, sort of.
Yeah, there's just
November.
one small change in the dues, which
When does this-
that happens as we get information. It's, I
Right.
mean, it's late for the town to be budgeting because town meeting is going to be in March, but it's
Mhm.
early for everybody else. I'll say
Yeah.
that when you're looking at bills coming out next July.
Is there any,
The
is there any
other,
way, is there any way to avoid this revisiting and revisiting and revisiting?
no,
Okay,
but good question, Marguerite. I wish there was.
because it seems to use up a lot of
This,
oxygen.
I feel like for working on streamlining the minutes, so that's easier next meeting.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can't do this with the budget every year. This
Yeah.
is just, it's just the situation we're in.
Right. it's
And
not-
then-
Part of it is that they don't know what the problem's going to be until they roll it all together and find out, oh my God, it's adding up to an 8% salary tax
Right,
increase.
Right.
And then they go back to everybody and want to revise it. I mean, it never comes out that, oh, it's only a 1% increase. Aren't we in great shape? Yeah. So-
I
Spoken
should
from
also say
experience.
that I did write it down. The assessment cost for CW Mars, the total without the cap is 22,661. But I'm putting in the capped amount because we know that that would be the highest it would go.
Yeah.
So that's 2591. And that's what we're looking, because we talked a lot about the assessment last year. And,
Yeah.
I worked with Jeanette Lundgren from CW Mars on getting those figures specifically. And I can send you more of that data, like what all the other libraries are paying. That was approved this morning in the meeting. So I have those figures now. The
So
other
the
big
programming
change.
number is way up.
Yes, so programming, I would say, is our big piece this year. So
Mhm.
we had $1,000 last year for programs. We're gonna ask for 5,000 this year.
Ryan, can you go over what, so the increase for professional development is also a significant increase, but
Yeah.
it's still less than where we were at in 2019. But can you just go over what would be added for that?
Yeah, so also in the thing we should note is when you're looking at that front sheet on the budget, you're looking at the actual amounts that were subtracted from the year, not the amounts we budgeted. So that, right, we always budget with a plan in place versus what we actually pay. So the year that it was higher was we expanded professional memberships in things like, it was really the Massachusetts Library Association, and we allowed other staff to join MLA and participate in that. So right now, the professional development line covers memberships for me kind of exclusively. Is that in the past, it's paid for my ALA membership, my Central Mass Library Advocates membership, my MLA membership. This doesn't even take into account, like if we wanted to go to the MLA conference, we have money we can get reimbursed for that, not money we could spend on like the conference costs. to go.
So
So
it's the full-time staff that are using, that are joining?
yes, the year that we paid more, we only opened it up to full-time staff because that's 6 people. So MLA, I would say, is about $50 per person.
Yeah.
My ALA dues are around, it's like just under 200, I think, every year. And that paid off because we were able to get the ALA grant this past year.
I think
So that's
these are
part of why I do
essential.
that.
I think these are essential. I can't see running a library and not letting the librarians belong to these very important organizations.
Also, the other thing that I'm kind of planning for, Kim, is that I haven't asked the staff this yet. So any staff member who's watching knows that this is a request coming, but Pat Ellis was a notary, and that was a service we were able to kind of provide to the public. We now don't have a notary. And one of the ways that we were able to reimburse Pat for that was that the Friends helped contribute for some of the materials, but we also paid her out of professional development funds in the past. So I mean, if I wanted to become a notary, if anybody on staff wanted to do that, we'd need money in order to fund it.
All good things. Questions from anyone? It looks to me like this tentative budget is as thorough as you can get it at this point, and I think we should vote on it right now. Anybody see a reason not to?
The one thing I'll say about the electronic resources, because we didn't spend a lot of time talking about those, is I did just receive a notification in the last 24 hours that Ancestry is not going to be offering remote access anymore. And that will now be, I think, our only database that goes to library use only. I will say the numbers when it was library use only were really good. And I think the genealogy club is going to end up coming back inside the library next year. And part of the reason we have that is because we had an ongoing group. So I don't think that one should be cut, even though that change is happening. That can be something that we assess in future years. I think the Ancestry numbers have been good.
How much is it a year?
About 1,400, a little bit more than that. It's one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, but it's a very good thing to offer, I think. It's been an active thing. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept this tentative budget?
So
So
moved.
move.
Okay, and do I have a second?
For the minutes, is it Janet or David who wants to take it for the minutes?
Janet,
Okay. David, do you want a second?
I'll second, yes.
Okay.
David will second. Oh God, he's a good sport. Okay, Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Eckberg.
Aye.
Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Maney.
Aye.
Trustee Regan.
Aye.
Trustee Estani.
Aye.
Okay, the tentative budget is accepted. All right, so our next item is, oh, by the way, just for the people who may be watching, the open space item number 8, Open Space Preservation Commission, that's been canceled for today and moved up to the December meeting. All right, so volunteer policy draft discussion.
So this was a leftover item from last month. I did have Mr. Eckberg take a look at it, and he gave me some good, they were not substantive changes, but there was some editorial things that he found that we missed. So the version you have is just a slightly updated form of that. You know, I think the policy was really good last month. I think everybody just wanted to read it over and digest it a little bit. So I don't know if you want to have much more of a discussion or if you just want to approve it. That's up to you guys.
I'm
I
fine
think we've
with
beaten it to death.
Yes, let's beat it to death, everyone. How about anybody have any comments, or shall we move to accept?
I just wanted to say I didn't reread it because I didn't realize that there were any edits in there.
Kim, I can give you the sheet that Mr. Eckberg gave me. We're talking like periods and capitalizations. Like it was, when I say it wasn't substantive, I don't think any of the words in the policy changed. I think it was
That's
just
right.
grammatical changes.
Punctuation.
And it was like, how many was it, David? It was like maybe 4 or 5 things he found. It
Not
wasn't
much. That's right.
Okay, that's fine with me then. Thanks. Thank you for catching this, David.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the Southborough Library volunteer policy?
So move.
All right, it was moved
Second.
by David Eckberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Eckberg,
Aye.
Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Maney,
Aye.
Trustee Regan,
Aye.
Trustee Yazdani.
Aye.
All right, good. The Southborough Library volunteer policy. Thank you to everyone who worked on this. It was not a small thing. It
Good.
is now passed into policy. All right, so our next,
Ryan, sorry, Margaret. Ryan, will
ahead.
you add the date of approval before
Yeah.
you update it to the site? Thank you.
Yep, I will.
Great, thanks.
Okay, that's great. And our staff appreciation for the year. Amy, do you want to discuss this? There are apparently some changes from our usual, our holiday dinner, which stopped because of COVID for 2 years, and now we're rethinking it. Amy, do you want to talk to that?
Sure. There were several reasons we were thinking to change to a new way to recognize our staff. And basically, Kim and I happened to be together, so we were bouncing ideas off each other. And I think that we settled that we think would be the best idea is to have a library staff appreciation week, similar to what they do in the schools for teacher appreciation, tie it to the date in April. There's 2 dates in April. One is library staff appreciation and one's library appreciation or something, but we figure the most important thing is to not have it overlapping with teacher appreciation and to not have it during school vacation. So we can choose the date based on those type of things. And the idea would be, we would like to, I don't know if you had kids in school when they were doing this, but what they do is they plan events throughout the week, like breakfast, snacks, things like that. And then they put signups for people to contribute. And the thinking is this is one way to let the community contribute and show their appreciation of the staff. The whole event will be coordinated and supported by the trustees because we love our library staff. And we'll come and we can coordinate, how we will do it. Kim and I also tossed around some ideas of maybe making some gift baskets that will raffle throughout the week to kind of generate excitement with the staff. And let me see, what else did we say?
There were some outdoor things too that were.
Well, I guess to address, I know that the idea of the original dinner was to have the staff and the trustees get to know each other a little better, but I don't find sitting at a restaurant in one spot all night to be a great way to do that. So we kind of came up with possibly the idea of doing either a potluck or bring your own lunch type thing and have a picnic on the grounds with the staff and the trustees, probably a Monday night as Ryan likes, so that all the staff can participate should they wish.
Do you include our residents, patrons also in that?
We could, it just depends on what the board chooses to do. But at this point, that's further out based on how COVID looks, but we can definitely do the appreciation week no matter what happens. But that's kind of the gist of it. Kim, did I miss the main points?
I think you pretty much covered all of it. I think it'd be nice to do like a staff appreciation around when there's a library appreciation event in April. And I think it's a way that we could also involve the community because I think a lot of people would love to participate.
Sounds good.
To me, this sounds wonderful. I'm so glad that you brainstormed it and came up with it. I know the COVID's made it so difficult to do a holiday dinner, and Amy, as you said, you end up talking to the people on either side of you, and that's about it at a dinner. This, I think, is just fabulous. Other trustees want to weigh in on it?
Oh, sounds really good. Sounds very nice.
Does this mean that there will be no
zero at the holidays, though?
So it means it will be in April, right?
Right.
Nothing would be done around the holidays.
Well, if Ryan wants to do so, I think it's more important for that maybe if Ryan wants to do something just with his staff on his own makes more sense than having us involved in it. So,
Well, last year it was food that was brought into the library for the staff, which is
right.
fine. And that's, I mean, some
Well,
people don't really
Ryan,
want
do
to
you
go.
know, Ryan, do you have an opinion on what the staff might like? Food brought
So
in as opposed to going out or bringing in some gift items? What do you think would be the best?
the sense that I've gotten from a majority of the staff members is that they wouldn't be comfortable doing a big group dinner just
Yeah.
because it's still, as much as we'd like things to be back to normal, they just still are not. I think it's worth
Right.
noting. So Kim and I are thinking of doing something smaller, I think, on the staff side this year.
Which
And
Kim?
Kim
Which
Ivers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
and just sort of, doing a library director, assistant library director organized thing. The friends last week were amenable to doing like a staff gift, which I think they used to do many years ago. And then I started to kind of talk them out of it because we were doing the dinner. I'll also say, to kind of catapult on Amy's point, is, I don't know if that's the right word, but the dinners were kind of designed at a point when I think the staff didn't know who the trustees were. I maybe that this is just because you guys are awesome and they're more familiar with the organization of the library. Maybe we've helped with that in the past couple of years, but I think that the staff and you, like, everybody feels comfortable with each other, right? And I'm not saying that the dinners came up because people didn't. I think it was like people, like, I had trustees who didn't know who worked at the library. So the dinners helped identify, I guess, people's faces. To me, you may not know some of our brand new staff members, but I feel like you are comfortable and you know the people who work at the library, right? You know who to go to if I'm not there, right? And ask a question or get help with something. So maybe the need for the dinners is not as, I was also looking just for something that let the staff know that we appreciate them. And honestly, I think what Amy's proposing sounds kind of better than a dinner. I think ultimately it will be. So, just as sort of like tradition, we do something around December just because we end up breaking and have a couple days off. So Kim and I have talked about just sort of organizing that. Kim always does a little something for our volunteers. So it's just, we're going to kind of combine it and make it a staff thing. And then I think the friends are going to do a gift. So that is something that we'll, hand out. So honestly, I think all of this sounds fantastic. And I, as one of the staff members who will be appreciated by this, I would just like to say thank you for being thoughtful and, appreciating what the staff does, because that it really, really means a lot to them. I'll say that. So
I love the idea of possibly Amy and Kim doing something on the outside of the library on the lawn that would involve patrons if they want to come also and say thank you. I don't know if that would work out, but it just seems like the grounds are so pretty now. We've really, except for the piles of dirt on the north side.
Some of the grounds are pretty.
Trees
We'll
that are
hang
sold.
a curtain, okay. But I just think it would be. The whole idea of doing something in April just sounds really wonderful to me. I just can. Would Kim and Amy? Would you like to sort of be the point people on this?
Sure.
That works for me.
That's wonderful. This is just such an upbeat thing right now, and I'm so happy that you came up with it. Something to look forward to in the spring,
Yeah, give them
right?
something to look forward to, right?
Yes, as opposed to a grim cold gathering during the dead of winter. But this will be lovely anyway. So thank you. Any help you
They
need
weren't
from me?
that bad.
They really weren't. I don't know. It's like,
I don't think they were.
silly. I know. But anyway, so spring is always good. So we'll have that to look forward to. So do we have any other business that shall properly come before the board today?
So we haven't talked, and maybe this is just a brief check-in, because I don't think anything is different about where you guys are with masks and requiring them in the library. I don't think anything is radically different. We are waiting to see, though, how the vaccination rate for the kids is going to factor into all of this. And I know a lot of people are getting booster shots, including some of our staff members. So this might be something we want to revisit in January, or I'm sorry, in December, because December's coming up. But my current sort of plan, I would say, is to keep the mask mandate in effect. So I wanted to see if there were any objections or you wanted to have a discussion about that.
Especially
Okay.
what's
I
gone
think-
on with the schools lately. I think it
I
makes
think you
sense.
Yeah, I would have, and I would back that. I think you need to keep it. Definitely.
So, and also I would just like to publicly acknowledge and thank the Southborough Fire Department for giving us 400 masks.
Oh, wow.
That was very helpful, especially when we were running low. They had additional supplies, and when I reached out to Chief Achilles, he was able to provide those. So that was a big help to the library, and I just would like to publicly thank the Southborough Fire Department for doing that.
Here, here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank
They've
you.
been great.
Thank you.
Anyway, any other any other business? Any other trustees wish to announce anything? All right. Have we all been heard? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion.
Okay, Amy Astani. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
Okay. Who is that going to be? You'll have to duke it out.
you can have it, Jane.
You can have it. It doesn't matter.
We can all go have lunch now. All right. So do I
All
have,
right.
do I need Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Eckberg,
I,
Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Maney,
Aye.
Trustee Regan,
Aye.
Trustee Astani.
Aye.
Oh, okay, so we are adjourned. It is 12:24. Thank you, everybody. I think this was a really productive meeting. I will send you an email version of what I will forward to the Board of Selectmen.
Great. Happy
Great.
Thanksgiving,
Great.
everybody.
Yes.
See you
thank
later.
Thank you.
Bye,
Stay
everyone.
safe.
Holidays.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Alrighty. So Ryan, I'll see you at 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive in and then load up the computer there. So you're welcome to join me at the library, but you can just hop on Zoom if that's easier.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and then, I mean, if there's stuff that we really need to talk to about after, I'm at the library till 9 o'clock tonight, or
Okay.
I'm there tomorrow or Friday. So,
Okay. Are you getting low on masks yet? Because I do have those 100 I can drop off.
you know what? If you have any masks to give us, I am happy to take anything.
Okay.
We're good on sanitizer because we have a resident named Deb Cantor who has donated like a bunch of sanitizer,
Okay.
and then we're really good on bags. The masks was the thing we started to run low on.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
put those in the middle of my counter to bring
We've
in.
already gone through, I would say, like 100 of what the fire department gave us.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think people take them just because they're free, and it's like, nah, take them when you
Yeah.
need them. You know.
Well, you know what?
So,
It's hitting me occasionally that I walk in and realize I don't have a mask, so I'll take one of where I've gone into. So, you know.
yeah. All right. Well, I'll
Yeah.
see you in an hour and a half.
Sounds good.